So, friends, the sole purpose of starting this talk series is to identify and bring in yoga achievers, who have contributed a lot in people's lives during their journey. The whole idea is to make them share their experience and insights of yoga. And I'm really excited to have Harmony Slater with us today. I'm just going to wait for Harmony to tune in.
Hi.
Hi, Harmony. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
Network's a bit like shaky. Okay, now I think it's better.
Yeah. Hi.
All right. So, friends, I'm going to quickly introduce Harmony Slater. She's one of the few female certified Ashtanga yoga teachers from North America. She's left behind a career of a ballet dancer and has founded two yoga schools in Canada. And she's also a mother, and she's gone through so many challenges, like all mothers, of raising kids. And it's apt to have her here today with us talk about our topic, yoga and motherhood. So on behalf of everyone, I want to welcome you, Harmony. It's lovely to have you here with us today.
Thanks so much. I'm having a crazy sound thing going on right now.
Yeah.
There's a really long delay.
It is, yeah.
Yeah,
Is it okay now?
Maybe I should log off and try and log back on.
Okay. No problem. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Everybody, hello. Okay, is it better now?
Yeah, it's much better.
Great. All right.
I was having you, everything you were saying, I could hear you saying it, and then it was like also repeating for some reason. I don't know. Like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna go crazy.
Not so much fun. All right. Okay, so welcome, Harmony, once again.
Thank you. It's so nice to be here with you all.
Same. All right, so let's begin with the first question, Harmony, on motherhood. So it is said that motherhood is one of the top forms of sadhana.
Yeah.
Even in yoga, there is nothing beyond that. So can you elaborate a little on this?
I think because when you become a mother, it it really forces you to surrender. You also, for the first time, in my experience, for the first time, I think you really understand what it is to do selfless service because you're really like involved in taking care of this little baby, of this being, of nurturing and loving, changing diapers, feeding, like all of your energy is going into taking care of this baby. And the baby's not going to give you any thanks, and people around you aren't going to be like, oh, that's so wonderful, good for you. You don't get any rewards except like your own inner joy of like, but I mean, sometimes it's not joyful, sometimes it's just really hard, right? And so you're really you're really immersed in this practice of selfless service, and you're immersed in also bhakti and love, and this like real devotion towards this being, towards this little entity that's like a God in front of you. You feel very connected to that life force and that energy. And so I feel like it includes all those aspects, the karma yoga, the bhakti yoga, as well as like just like a real surrender to realizing that you're not in control of like almost anything.
Right.
And like up until that point, there's a period of your life, when you outgrow being a child, and all of a sudden you feel like you're really in control of a lot of things in your life. We kind of attach ourselves to this power, this sense of power or autonomy. And when you become a mother, you kind of lose this power and autonomy a little bit, because you don't get to do whatever you want whenever you want.
So much to do.
yeah, you're doing other things.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's a real yoga practice. It's it requires you to really understand what yoga is, that it is the union and it's the forgetting of yourself, of your selfish desires, and um, you know, putting yourself first. You're putting someone else really first, and it teaches you a lot about yoga and also about keeping your mind steady, right?
Yeah.
You
Right.
see
So
how
how
the
does
mind moves, and you have to keep like bringing it back to your
right.
present moment and to your purpose and to what you're doing. You have to be really um, focused on the present moment.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think like why is it said that yoga is so important for women, especially mothers, you know?
Because I think we need a practice to keep us sane.
Same.
I think women, you know, women are caregivers. Typically, they're nurturers. They tend to take care of everyone else's needs before their own.
Mm-hmm.
And I think all these patterns, all of these sort of like, you know, it could be our conditioning. It could be because that's what we're raised to do. It could be in our DNA because we've done it
Right.
for, you know, thousands of millions of years,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's hard to say what exactly it is, but it tends to be the case that women do this, right? They take care of everyone else around them and make sure everybody has what they need. And I
True.
think we forget to take care of ourselves sometimes. We forget to make sure we have what we need. And
Right.
the practice of yoga is very helpful for that. It's very helpful for replenishing your energy, refilling your stores inside, and taking that time to just like be with yourself so that you can then do all the other stuff that you need to do, right?
And I think it's also said, no, that if you practice yoga, it's going to benefit the people around you more than it's going to benefit you because, like, you'll be more sane and maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, definitely it has a ripple effect. You'll get the benefits, but the other people around you will also get the benefits, and the planet will get the benefits too,
Yeah,
right? So
true.
it's yeah, it's you know, you can't really change other people. You can't really change circumstances in, you know, many cases, but you can change yourself. And when you change yourself, you
Yeah.
start to show up in the world in a different way. And when you
Mm-hmm.
show up in the world in a different way, then people change around you and the circumstances change around you. And
Sure.
it's it's powerful.
Mm-hmm. So, how much do you recommend Ashtanga yoga to pregnant women? You know?
I think if you've practiced Ashtanga yoga before becoming pregnant, it's no problem at all.
Okay.
It's something your body's used to doing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's not, you know, you kind of know where you're at, your
Right.
capacity, your
Right.
limitations.
Yeah.
Um, it's not going to be overly strenuous. You know
Mm,
how to make it less strenuous, you know? Um,
yeah.
so I think it's perfectly fine if you've never practiced Ashtanga yoga before.
Yeah.
It might not be the practice you want to begin when you become pregnant because
Sure.
it can be really hard at the beginning.
Huh.
And already your body's trying to adapt to a lot of
Yeah.
internal changes.
Hmm.
And even like just the volume of your blood is increasing or I think doubling, something like that, which
Mm-hmm.
creates like, I mean, you know, you can create like kind of like a breathlessness or, you know, you're already dealing
Yeah.
with a lot of internal changes. So adding on an extra stress of like, oh, now I got to do all these push-ups, you
Right.
know, is maybe not so helpful.
Yeah. And can yoga help like a woman post-delivery? Do you think it's something advisable? And,
Yeah.
it's such a difficult time for a lot of women, a lot of people put on weight and stuff like that. So,
Yeah. I think that after you deliver, I mean, you should take adequate rest,
yeah.
and that really needs to be your priority is sleeping and getting your rest and proper sleep. That's number one priority, not like doing your yoga practice.
Yeah.
Realize that this is your yoga practice. Taking care of yourself and sleeping is
So
actually doing yoga, you know,
that's
and
really
taking
interesting.
care of your
People,
baby is doing yoga.
yeah. It's not
But
always about getting onto the mat and practicing, no, that as you said, that you
Yeah.
take care of
You have
yourself.
to make a shift, right? You have to be like, okay, yoga isn't just happening on this mat,
Right.
right? It's happening all day long in everything I do.
Uh-huh.
But it can be really helpful to start practicing when you feel ready, when you feel comfortable.
Hmm.
Um, Typically, like after you've stopped bleeding a lot, because I mean, this
Uh-huh.
isn't necessarily talked about, but after you
Yeah.
deliver, it's not like you just deliver and go back to normal. You know, you're still like bleeding a lot for several weeks.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's like you're having ladies' holiday, an extended ladies' holiday.
Yeah. Yeah.
So take your ladies' holiday, your extended ladies' holiday. And then, yeah, when you feel ready, I think it's helpful, even just doing some sun salutations and lying down. You might not
Yeah.
have a lot of energy or time, but
Right.
doing a little bit, breathing, moving, connecting with yourself, you know,
Right.
helping to balance all those hormones and brain
Mhm.
chemicals that are, you know, really after you give birth are very active, and, you know, you can
Mhm.
experience some imbalances. So I think the yoga practice is really beneficial to help those imbalances um,
Yeah.
become more balanced, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah, totally. Can you
Yeah.
talk about ladies' holiday? Because I think a few listeners might want to know what the term is in the Ashtanga world.
Right, yeah. So, when women are having their monthly period or their menses, we call it a ladies' holiday. And so, I mean, this is a tradition that comes from India, so probably they're familiar with this
Yeah,
idea.
right,
You know, that as a woman, when you're bleeding, you should take rest and not like be very active, not go to
right.
temple, not, you know, wash the dishes.
Yeah.
It's a very old traditional kind of idea, but it's been carried forward into the Ashtanga practice and method. And, you know, they've done some scientific studies that sometimes women are more likely to injure themselves around the time of
Yeah,
their period or their monthly menstruation or a little bit after because of the relaxin in the body. It's a hormone
right.
that releases, you know, makes joints or makes the ligaments and tendons a little bit more lax.
Yeah.
And so you could maybe injure yourself a little bit more. And also, energetically, you know, with this prana, this expansion of life
Yeah.
energy, and the apana, the downward, you know, life force or the movement of the downward energy.
Yeah.
Yoga is really about kind of controlling and manipulating this prana and apana. And so
Right.
when you're having your menses, you really want the apana to do its job
And not
and move
interfere.
things out of the body.
Right.
Right?
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so not to like interfere with that
Yeah.
process. You don't want to do like
Right.
shoulder stand or go upside down or do things that are gonna, you know, interrupt that natural flow and movement of energy out.
Right. So any
Yeah.
kind of inversions would be a bad idea.
Yeah, typically inversions aren't recommended, and also things like Uddiyana Bandha, especially like the Kriya, where you're lifting the diaphragm, or like
Right.
Kapalabhati.
Yeah.
Um, you know, things, no breath retentions, not that we do this in the Ashtanga yoga practice,
Mhm.
but if you're doing pranayama, you don't want to hold the breath.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, so just things that influence your internal environment.
Right. So, all right. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I mean, and you can still practice, you know, if you really want to, and you're like, I just really need to like move and work this out. But just, you know, keep in mind that you're having like a very special time. And
the
so
me
maybe
time.
don't, yeah, a me time, and don't like push yourself and don't like put extra stress on the body at that time.
Sure. Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense. Because I think the
Yeah.
body feels like it wants to rest also. Like you get that feeling that
Yeah,
okay, I kind of, just rest and not push too much, not do too much.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know it can
True.
be difficult, like for modern women. I mean, especially in the West,
Yeah.
you know, we're used to always doing and going.
Yeah.
And even like during that time of the month, we're still like going to work and doing all the things that we normally do.
It's like go,
Um,
go.
yeah. But especially if you're practicing every day, like
Yeah,
regularly, it's kind of
right.
nice to like sleep in and not get out of bed and just be
You
like,
actually want
soon you're
those
like
3
praying for
days.
ladies' holiday.
Totally, yeah. So tell
Yeah.
us, a lot of young mothers I know are sleep deprived. Don't you think the
Uh,
practice could be further draining? Like, what's your
yeah.
view on?
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I don't think it's really recommended or helpful to force yourself to get up early and try and practice early in the morning,
Right.
especially like that first year. I'm gonna say year for sure.
Because a lot of
It's
feeding through the night and things like
yeah,
that. They are like, all I need is sleep right now,
yeah.
but I also want to take care of my health. So how do you hit that balance?
You know, you kind of have to learn to practice at like different times during the
Yeah,
day. So make sure you're getting adequate sleep. That's your first priority. And then
right.
like maybe later in the day when the baby's sleeping or napping, you can like do
Right.
15, 20 minutes and
Okay.
kind of work it that way. I mean, sometimes you
Hmm.
just need to also sleep when the baby's sleeping.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you have to yeah, you just have to really like listen, and it's helpful to try to do a little bit because I know
Yeah.
there's a feeling like I want to, you know, do
Yeah.
something for myself and I need to exercise and I'm like not leaving the house.
Right. Totally.
But yeah, so you kind of have to fit it in wherever you can, like whenever you have the time. And that might be at like
Okay.
2 p.m.,
Okay.
you
Right.
know.
Just fit
Yeah.
what I want. Just fit it in whenever you can. It doesn't. I mean, of course,
Yeah.
but like if you can fit it whenever, it's better to do something than nothing.
Yeah, and I think that's where I really learned like that I can practice anytime. You
Yeah.
know, it's not it's not something that I have to do first thing in the morning when I get up.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like I can do it anytime during the day, no matter
Sure.
what.
Yeah.
So
Correct.
I think you have to be adaptable, you have to be flexible. You can't be really rigid with your routine. And I think for a lot of women who have a practice before they
Mhm.
become pregnant, if they are rigid in their thinking, if they're
Yeah.
really like, no, I get up, I do my practice, and then I do my day, and
Yeah.
if they try to keep that rigidity, they stop practicing altogether because it's
Right.
impossible.
True.
Yeah,
True.
you
Absolutely.
can't do it. It's really,
Right.
it's impossible. You'll end up depleting your energy. You'll feel terrible. You're not going to enjoy being a mother. You're not going to enjoy the rest of your
True.
day. You're
Right.
exhausting yourself, and you're going to say, this practice isn't helping me. And it's not
True.
that the practice isn't helping you, it's your approach to the practice, you know, having
Uh-huh.
this really rigid, um, you know, idea that it can only happen this way at this time.
Right.
And
Right.
so you kind of have to throw that idea
Yeah.
out.
That makes
And
sense.
also like, yeah, also like if you're too tired to do Surya Namaskara, like maybe just do some stretching, you know,
Uh-huh.
maybe take Shavasana and lie with your legs up the wall.
Right.
You know, you don't, it doesn't have to be exactly, you know,
Right. Just more.
100% following.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah,
So,
you can kind of pick and choose a little bit.
yeah, true. Understandable. Yeah. So you're an ardent believer of Vipassana. So can you give a little gist on that? It would be interesting to hear that part.
Yeah. Yeah, I really love the Vipassana meditation method. The first Vipassana I ever took was in Dehradun, up
Uh-huh.
near Rishikesh, and there's a beautiful center up there in the
Yeah.
mountains and the foothills of the Himalayas.
When was
Um,
this?
that was back in 2006.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, and I've also sat a Vipassana in Chennai. They have a
Okay.
really nice center there as well.
Right.
Um, so yeah, it's uh it's just a I don't know, I think it's really helpful. It's helpful to have that ability to sit and just observe the breath, observe
Yeah.
sensation, and not suppress it and not react to it, but just learn
Right.
to see what's happening and just
Hmm.
sit with it. right?
Yeah.
You don't have to respond all the time. You can just
Right.
create a space.
Hmm. Yeah.
And
Does
then,
yoga and Vipassana go hand in hand?
yeah, I think they go together really well, actually. I mean, the problem is that there's only so much time in the day.
Right.
So, I know like in the style of Goenka, it's recommended to meditate for an hour in the morning and an hour in the evening. But if that's like too big a chunk to commit to, even committing for 20 minutes in the morning or 20 minutes in the
Okay.
evening, like just
All
doing what
right.
you can, I think is really
Yeah.
helpful. It doesn't have to be like this big, and it's sort of like the Ashtanga practice,
Right.
Ashtanga practice, when you're doing like a really long Ashtanga practice, sometimes, you only have time for a half hour, or, you don't always have an hour and a half. So, but it's better to
Sure.
do a little bit of something rather than avoid it
Right.
altogether. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
So
So
I
does
think the
yoga bring
Vipassana
about,
is a good complement. It helps with the mind and,
yeah.
seeing your thoughts really more clearly.
Uh-huh. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us, does yoga bring about balance in the lives of super busy moms, like if it does, then what steps, like what are the steps that you would advise?
Um, yeah, I think it can help to bring about balance. But again, when you're really busy, it's hard to
Yeah.
create that space and time to do a practice or like commit
Right.
to a really long practice. So I
Hmm.
think trying to commit to 30 minutes where to start.
Yeah. I think that's so important.
And so if
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
only, yeah. So if you can only do like some sun salutations and maybe a little bit of standing and seated or closing, it's good to just start with a little bit of something and then feel
Yeah.
how it benefits you. Don't try and like
Right.
commit to a big, hour and a half long practice or something, because
Yeah.
it's gonna just add more stress, and then you're gonna stop doing it because you're gonna say, well, I don't have an hour and a half, I can't do this.
Hmm. Right.
Yeah,
All right. Just
so
so friends, if you
start
have any
small.
questions, please put them in. Yeah, start small. That's
Yeah,
don't try to, like expect an hour and a half of practice. Do whatever you can, right?
yeah, exactly.
So, friends, if you have any questions, you can send them in. We'll take a few before ending this session. So, I think somebody asked about a modified. So, maybe can you tell us a little? People always ask me, okay, well, I understand, a modified sequence is good, but, how does one modify? Because, not everybody kind of knows how to modify the practice. So, can you talk a little about like how do you
Sure.
simply modify practice?
So I always, Patabi Joyce used to tell us that 3 Surya Namaskara A and 3 Surya Namaskara
Yeah.
B were sort of the
Mm-hmm.
minimum yoga practice.
Right.
That all of
Yeah.
yoga can be contained in Surya Namaskara A and Surya Namaskara B. So,
Wow.
yeah. I mean, because yoga is really about the mind, right? So it's about how you're
Right.
focusing and channelizing the mind, using the breath, and
Sure.
creating this connection between the mind and the body,
Mm-hmm.
and the breath and the mind and the body, using the breath to
Yeah.
do that. But
Right.
I would suggest, practicing 3 Surya Namaskara A, 3 Surya Namaskara B. I
Mm-hmm.
like going through the standing sequence at least up to
Yeah.
Parsvottanasana, which is the one where your
Right.
hands are in the reverse prayer behind your back. Those are kind of the
Mm-hmm.
fundamental standing postures. And then,
Right.
see what else you have time for. So if you have
Right.
time, if you feel like you're running out of time, you might then just move to like back bending or doing little bridge and doing some
Right.
closing postures. Or
Right.
you might, depends how much you have time for. Once you kind of do those fundamental standing asanas from Padangusthasana to Parsvottanasana, if
Right.
you have time to add some seated postures, you could add some seated
Uh-huh.
postures. The rule that Patabi Joyce talks about in his book Yoga Mala, and that he would say to us, is if you don't have time, you can
Yeah.
skip postures, but keep them in the sequence.
Right.
So
Okay.
If you're not doing half lotus, that's fine. If you don't want to do, the next one, Tirang Mukha Ekapada Paschimottanasana, that's fine. Go to Janu Sirsasana A. And then
Okay.
maybe you don't want to do Janu Sirsasana B and C, go to Marityasana A, right? Or
Okay.
Marityasana C. And then maybe you're out of time. Okay, well, now I'm going to do closing. So maybe I'll do a few little bridges or back bends and then the shoulder stand
Right.
sequence. So
Okay.
it's more about keeping the postures in the order that they show up in the sequence.
Right.
Yeah. And then you can skip what you need to.
Okay.
But it's
Makes
like, don't
sense. Yeah.
do, sorry, like Baddha Konasana and then like,
Yeah.
Ardha Baddha Padma Paschimottanasana, or stand
Right.
up and then do,
Right.
yeah, Trikonasana. So
Sure.
just like
Yeah. That's
do
like
what you
for the
can, keeping them in order.
right. Okay. Got that. So we
Yeah,
have a few questions here. I'm going to quickly just
sure.
take a few of them. So somebody is asking, can I alternate between yoga and Vipassana?
I mean, ultimately, you can do whatever you want, okay? Um,
Yeah.
but both Ashtanga and Vipassana, suggest, request that it's a daily practice. Ashtanga, you get one day off a week, and moon days, Vipassana, you get no days off.
Yeah.
Um,
There's no holiday in Vipassana.
no. So I think it's good to keep the consistency. I think it's better to just shorten the practices if you don't have time and
Right.
yeah, do like 30 minutes of each
Okay.
or whatever, or 45 minutes of asana and 15 minutes of meditation or whatever, whatever
Right.
works for you. I think it's good to keep the consistency of the practice rather than alternating.
Yeah. All right. The next one is, are there specific poses or practice one could do to get prepared for delivery? Wow, that's an interesting one.
Yeah, I think the things that tend to help delivery the most are like lunging, so the warrior
Oh,
sequences, and deep
Virabhadra.
squatting. Yeah, Virabhadrasana, and also like Parsvottanasana, side angle.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
things that stretch the pelvic floor. But
Yeah.
yeah, Upavishta Konasana, Baddha Konasana, anything that's kind of
Yeah.
like stretching in the hips and the pelvic floor area can be helpful.
Okay. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
that's somebody's asking, when you're pregnant and have back pain, do you have really respect or do, I don't get this.
Or do
Do
some Surya
you do
Namaskara.
Surya Namaskar? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, I had a lot of back pain later in my pregnancy, but
Okay,
I also felt like moving was helpful for me.
okay,
So I think it depends on the individual. I mean, normally what I would tell a pregnant woman who practices Ashtanga yoga and
yeah,
wants to keep practicing Ashtanga yoga through the
yeah,
pregnancy is do what feels right for you. So
okay,
if Surya Namaskar doesn't feel good, if it's creating pain or you're uncomfortable doing it, then don't do it. Just leave it.
right, okay,
Um,
wow,
and so you really have to like listen to what's going on. And also it's going to change day to day. So, as a baby shifts position or maybe hormones shift or whatever, it changes every
hmm,
day, like
right,
sometimes quite
yeah,
drastically. So
yeah,
you really have to like pay attention to what's going on for you in that day. And the experience is
right,
different for every woman. So it's really hard to give these big, broad rules like, well, you shouldn't do this and you can't do this because
yeah, yeah,
because it's a very unique experience. And like some people feel nauseous doing downward dog. Some people feel
right,
nauseous doing back bends. Other people love back bends. And, so it's some people don't like shoulder stand. Other people don't mind it. Some people like headstand. Some people don't. It's really an individual thing, and it also might just be dependent on that day too, how the baby's sitting, what's going on for you. Did you sleep well? Didn't you sleep well? Were you able to digest your food at night or not? There's all kinds of things that,
Too much.
yeah. And also, like, you don't digest the same way when you're pregnant. All your organs are getting like cramped and crunched up,
True,
So
true.
yeah, so
Right.
you really have to just like give yourself permission to leave out
Yeah.
whatever you don't like. And you know what? Even if it's just like, I don't feel like doing this one today, don't do
Yeah.
it. Like give yourself that permission to
Right.
really be quite liberal with the practice and don't force
Right.
yourself to do things.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really the
Right.
time to
Yeah.
like force yourself. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I think it could create an adverse effect on the body, no? Because
Yeah.
if your body's telling you something and you don't listen to it, you could actually it could negatively affect the system.
Yeah, I had a lot of nausea in the mornings. Um,
Right.
And so I would always eat right when I woke up. And even when I
Yeah.
was in Mysore and practicing when I was, I guess about 2 months pregnant. And
Oh, okay.
yeah, I would eat. I would get up, I would eat like rice and avocado, or I would eat
Mm-hmm.
crackers. I would eat like oatmeal, like whatever. I would eat as soon as I
Yeah.
woke up. Then I'd like
Mm-hmm.
meditate for a little bit. Then I'd sleep.
Yeah.
I'd go back to bed and sleep for like 20 minutes or 30 minutes. And then I'd go
Mm-hmm.
practice because if I didn't eat, I would feel sick practicing.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
so, it's kind of like before that, I would have never eaten before practice. And even now, like I
Yeah.
don't really like to eat before practice.
No,
But
it's not yeah, it's not something that like you feel all the time, but I'm sure like as you said that, motherhood changes so much, like,
yeah,
you feel different, there's so much going on in the system, so crazy things happen.
yeah, you have to be adaptable. And so sometimes if you eat right away, it helps to, part of the nauseous feelings like the stomach acid in the inside
Right.
that's coming up. And so if you eat, it helps to decrease that stomach acid. And so I'd give myself
Right.
like, an hour and a half or 2 hours maybe, like enough to kind of get the food out of my stomach and into my intestines.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I'd also like go take a nap while I was digesting.
Yeah. Yeah. But I like what
And
you said that push yourself and do what feels right, because I think that's the key to the practice, no? Like my
yeah,
students always ask me that, how do we even in general, like everybody feels like,
yeah.
oh, I don't write on certain days, and yeah, this is the best thing ever, to just listen to your body and do as much as you can, you know
Yeah, I mean, and it's important like not to get into the habit of just like avoiding the things you don't like and only doing the things that you
right.
like, especially when
Yeah.
you're not pregnant.
Yeah.
But
Sure.
when you're pregnant, it's like a little bit of a special circumstance, It's
Of course.
a very
Yeah.
special sacred time in your life and you really need to honor and respect that. And I mean,
Right.
for the rest of your life, you're going to be doing a lot of things that you maybe don't necessarily want to do.
True.
So I always feel like you should, at least for 9 months, give yourself permission to do whatever you want and not do
True.
whatever you want.
Right. That time is not going to come back.
No, and it's also not comfortable sometimes. Like you're not always
Right.
feeling good. So you have to be really gentle and really nurture yourself and, treat yourself like a sacred vessel because that's what you are,
Right.
right? It's really special.
Yeah.
At
And as
other
you
times
rightly said,
it's okay if you're not pregnant, it's okay to be like, I don't feel like doing this one, but I'm going to make myself do
yeah.
it because it's
Right.
good for me to do stuff I don't like.
Yeah. Right.
But
Yeah.
when you're pregnant, it's different. It's a totally different situation.
Sure. Yeah. And as you rightly said that, not practicing and, just being is also doing yoga.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you have to
Yeah.
take the lessons you learn in your asana practice off of
Yeah.
the mat and into the rest of your life.
Right.
Yeah.
Great. So for all the women listening to us today, Harmony, anything that you would like to, end this with.
Oh, wow. Well, thanks so much for having me on. Thanks for doing this little question and answer. It was fun. I hope that any of the women listening got something out of it. I hope that you feel empowered, claim your power. Uh, Women are super amazing. What we do in this world and in this life and in these bodies is incredible. So be proud that you were born a woman, and
Right.
just keep doing all the things you're doing, and celebrate yourself, celebrate all the things that you do, because it's a lot, I know. So yeah, and stop like being mean to yourself, stop like with the negative talk, and stop putting so much expectations on yourself to do more. I think that's a big thing as a woman. We always feel like we're never doing enough, and
Totally.
there's
Yeah.
always more to do. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's like let's just celebrate the things that we're doing, and more always seems to come on its own. So don't worry. Yeah.
Great. That's very well said, Harmony. It was an honor to have you here today and chat with
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Yes, sorry for any of the technical difficulties.
No problem. No, not a
It's a long
worries.
way from India to Canada.
I know it is. You're in the mountains up there.
Yeah. Yeah. So thanks for having me.
Thank you, Harmony. Take care of
Have a good
yourself.
night. Okay, you too.
Have-
Bye.
Bye, guys.